Subham, rank 41, 31 July 2022. Essay. Topic 1. If you want peace, prepare for war. The Middle East has been a zone of turmoil, conflicts, and frequent wars. Amidst this chaos, Iran has remained relatively peaceful since 1979 revolution. It is not like their peaceful world faces no danger. Israel, USA, and Saudi Arabia create constant threat, and yet Iran has faced no direct threat. This piece of Iran is established on the idea of preparing itself for any direct threat in future. Nuclear deterrent is the center stage of this preparation. Its opponents currently pose no direct threat as Iran continue to prepare for any eventuality. But is this actual peace? Can preparing for wars bring long-standing or inclusive peace, or are we just covering our wounds for the time being? In this essay, we will try to find some answers to these questions. Before moving to the main dilemma, we need to clarify about what peace do we mean and want. There are three levels of peace that need to be established. At the micro level, one inner peace. It entails true conscience, no inner conflicts, and some kind of satisfaction. Gautam Buddha attained this peace through self discovery and meditation. At the meso level, one wants peace at the immediate societal level. It is characterized by equal, no conflict, prosperity, and social well being. Individual and societal peace are interrelated. One can hardly find happiness in a polarized society. Moving to the macro level, peace ultimately is established between nations. This is because direct wars and conflicts generally happen between at least two modern states. One world has seen relatively more peace since the Second World War. In between all these levels, we can have many other kind of peace between humans and other species, humans and natural environment, and ultimately everyone wants a peaceful life. Similar to peace, preparing for war can have various meanings depending on the context. At an individual level, one can prepare for crisis of conscience which can disturb peace. For example, telling a lie to save friend can cause cognitive dissonance. But if one prepares himself by weighing which values to prefer, this can be avoided. The most visible dimension of preparing for war is when various nations actually mobilize their troops and create some kind of deterrence. India and China has militarized the whole western border so that peace is at least established through deterrence. In between, these two society can be more stable and prosperous in the long run if some sort of preparation is done to avoid conflicts. Constitutional safeguard against untouchability in India is to prepare for any caste chauvinism. The question then arises is why do we even need to prepare for war to establish peace? The above question can be answered through security dilemma. In real life, an entity faces numerous perceived threats. To counter this, the entity wants to create some deterrence. The idea is to avoid a perceived threat from becoming a real threat. This can be illustrated by recent Russia-Ukraine war. Since the Cold War, USA has seen Russia as threat and established NATO as deterrence. In turn, Russia also perceived as a security threat, so it attacked Ukraine because of the expansion of NATO. As we have seen in the case of Ukraine, preparing for war doesn't always lead to peace. As Machiavelli said, you can't avoid a war, you can only postpone to the advantage of other party. Despite the risk of proliferation, which we will discuss later, preparing for the war is a tool to postpone it. This allows one to establish at least conditional peace. By postponing this, also gives the opportunity to bring all the parties to the table to discuss everyone's concerns. Peace talks by the Indian government in the Northeast is the perfect manifestation of this. By enacting OFSPA and using military force, it created the foundation for talks, which ultimately has led to peace. Moreover, preparing for any conflict allows one to deal with any externalities. It gives time to analyze the problems and opportunity to find out there is any alternative. For instance, ISRO is launching various test rockets to find out if all the components of its Gaganyaan project is safe and effective or not. By preparing for any harsh eventuality, ISRO aims to conduct a peaceful suborbital journey. Further, long-standing peace can only be achieved by preparing for the probable wars. The epitome of this nuclear peace. This is nuclear peace. Despite the world witnessing the ravages of nuclear bombs in 1945, it has till now not been used again. There has been no world war because of peace manufactured by nuclear deterrence. On the extreme end, peace is the result of war. By preparing for the same, one makes sure that he is on the correct side of the result. For example, Reliance and Amazon both fought for the ownership of Future Group, but the former emerged victorious because of was prepared for it, because if it was prepared for it. This argument leads to question whether war can lead to peace. Can preparing for war to achieve peace can actually lead to the opposite, as we saw in the case of Ukraine. It did result in anything but peace. But why is this so? First, preparation creates artificial suspicion. As much as we like it to be, we are not good communicators. So, our actions communicate our intentions. When we start expanding our influence on the perceived threat, it becomes an actual threat. When we poke a bear or will relative will uh, will retaliate. He doesn't know if we are poking it for food or endangering it. Second, there is not a single instance of a bad peace or a good war. What happens when we prepare for a conflict is that we think we are fighting a moral and good war, but in a complex world, this creates a domino effect, and at the end, our own interests are jeopardized. For example, a father can beat his children to send them to school. He think of is a good cause, but in reality, the children will not be completely interested in studies. Finally, only fractured and short-term peace can be brought about by preparing to defend so-called peace. India and China mobilizing their troops along border can only create short-term deterrent. The conflict manifests itself in other fields who trade wars. To conclude, peace is dynamic. It can have different meaning for different entities. By preparing ourselves to defend our peace, we ensure that the enemy is more careful in its approach. At the same time, we saw how this creates security dilemma and can further create conflict rather than provide peace. As Eisenhower stated, war and peace are the two sides of the same coin. Bringing peace, the case of Iran, it is preparing for the war by creating nuclear deterrent and also trying to establish peace through talks under JCPOA. So the wisdom is to come under the same roof and vent out our concern to the other party. Peace brokered through conciliation is always better than one brokered through deterrence. Topic 2. No man's knowledge can go beyond his experience. Sometimes the Bollywood factory does produce some good movies. One of these was a married released during height of height of pandemic. Aankhon Dekhi, as the name suggests, the protagonist has this epiphany that he will believe in only those things that he directly experienced. This creates some comical situation and also some profound questions. The most prominent of which is, can our knowledge go beyond our experience? According to Aristotle, knowledge is the greatest virtue. Whole Nelson Mandela called called if the most powerful tool to change the world. So, what is knowledge and how does one goes gain it? According to Albert Einstein, knowledge is something that allows one to learn throughout his lifetime. Here comes the role of experience. There is a Chinese saying that nature provides us experience as a comb when we are bald. It is through experience only that we grow our hair. Knowledge, most of the times, if is direct experience we learn in schools from parents by reading on our own and witnessing some events. It was Prince Siddharth's direct experience of a corpse and ascetic, a sick and a poor man that gave him the knowledge that life is suffering. Another way to achieve knowledge is through the indirect experience. Here we base our understanding through correlation. During freedom struggle of India, many revolutionaries took inspirations from Irish nationalists and Russians. Mm, they didn't directly witness the acts of this revolutionary in their respective countries, but indirectly knew that the some act can sever the common purpose stabilizing self-government. So people learn through experience, but one can't go beyond experience. First, anything learned with direct experience won't have surety. there will always be questions about the validity of knowledge. For example, many climate skeptics questions climate change theory because they have not directly experienced the effect of the same. That's all.